Well, good morning. It's good to be with you today on this wonderful day as we continue together in our time in Luke's Gospel. I hope you're off to a great week this week. It's a busy week around here. School starts for kiddos soon. We don't have kiddos going to school. We have kiddos going to college, but not school. So it's a weird feeling to look around and see friends having their kids go off to school, and we're like, okay, well, that's not what we are now. So getting older is weird, y'all. It's just a weird ride to get older. Today we're going to be reading in Luke 6. We're going to read two sections together because they fit so well together. We're reading Luke 6, 1 through 11. That's Luke chapter 6, 1 through 11. One Sabbath, while Jesus was going through the grain fields, his disciples plucked some heads of grain, rubbed them with their hands, and ate them. Some of the Pharisees said, "Why are you doing what is not lawful on the Sabbath?" Jesus answered, "Have you not read what David did when he and his companions were hungry? He entered the house of God, took the bread of the presence, which is not lawful for any but priests to eat, and gave some to his companions. He then said to them, 'The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath.' On another Sabbath, he entered the synagogue and taught. There was a man whose right hand was withered. The scribes and the Pharisees watched him to see whether he might cure on the Sabbath, so they may find an accusation against him. Even though he knew they were thinking, he said to the man who had the withered hand, 'Come, stand here.' He got up and stood there. Then Jesus said to them, 'I ask you, is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath, to save life or destroy it?' After looking around at all of them, he said to them, 'Stretch out your hand.' He did so, and his hand was restored. They were filled with fury and discussed with one another what they might do to Jesus. Can you imagine getting to a place in your life where you see good being done and you're mad about it? Can you imagine getting to a place where, verse 7, the scribes and the Pharisees watched him to see whether he would cure on the Sabbath, so they may find an accusation against him? Can you imagine getting to a place where you're like, if he heals this person, we're going to get him. We're going to get him. Can you imagine not liking someone so much that you let yourself go to that place? That, friends, is a dangerous place to be. To think to yourself, if this fella does this, if this fella goes so far as to do good on this day that I'm going to get him, that's a dangerous place to find yourself. I think it's always important for us to remember who the Pharisees were, to remember why they matter. So, from your Old Testament history, you may remember that the Jews went into exile after Babylon defeated the nation of Judah. Babylon took the Jews, took the younger leaders into exile in Babylon. And while these leaders were in exile in Babylon, arose a group of leaders that said, "Hey, when we were back home in the Promised Land, we didn't keep the law, and because we didn't keep the law, God punished us." And because God punished us for not keeping the law, if we ever get back home again, if we ever get back to the promised land, if we ever get back home again, we're going to keep the law. We're going to make sure that we keep the law. We are going to abide by the law. And that is a noble intent. I want you to hear this. It's always important to remember the Pharisees. The Pharisees' intention was good. They wanted to keep the law. They genuinely wanted to keep the law. But so much of the law is vague. Like Jesus broke the Sabbath law today. Okay, what's the commandment saying? You're to honor the Sabbath, keep it holy, no work, rest, those type things. That's what it says. My wife is a great cook. Sometimes she'll, against better judgment, ask me to get something ready. Very rarely. Or sometimes I'll get a wild hair and I mean to cook something. It's not I can cook cereal. It's about the extent of my cooking is cereal and a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Outside of that, y'all, it's not happening. But the few times in my life when I've full-heartedly tried to cook, I can't do recipes that say, I need a dab of this or a dash of that. I don't know the quantifiable measurement of dashes and dabs. I need 3 tablespoons. I need 6 fluid ounces. I need specific instructions on how to cook. They say, oh, Cooking is an art form. No, no, no. If I do it, it's not an art form. It's awful. It's torture. So you don't want me doing artful cooking. That is not what you want. So what we're seeing here is what I need is I need very specific instructions if I'm going to cook anything. What we're seeing here is that the Pharisees gave very specific instructions on what it meant to keep the Sabbath. That's what they were about, was those very specific instructions. They want that they were the teachers of the law. They were trying to explain we honor the Sabbath, meaning we do these things and these things and these things. So Jesus was butting up against those man-made laws and saying, yes, we are to keep the Sabbath. We are to honor the Sabbath and keep it holy. Is it lawful to do good or to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath? To save a life or destroy it? What's more important? Your man-made laws that are trying to interpret what it means to keep the Sabbath or keeping the Sabbath. And Jesus says he did not come to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. He comes to show us what it means to truly keep the Sabbath. So the Sabbath is a day of rest, a day of worship, a day to incline our hearts towards God. Well, what draws your heart more to God than a miracle? You know, what what is more praise inducing than seeing someone healed? What gives you more thankfulness than a little bit of food when you're hungry? Jesus is trying to show, and notice what he says here in verse 5. He says, the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. The Son of Man is an apocalyptic title. That's a title that comes from the book of Daniel. There's a reference to the Messiah who will come and judge all things. The Son of Man comes and, is God. He comes in judgment and comes and restores and comes and saves. That's what the Son of Man does. So Jesus is saying the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. In other words, the Sabbath was made to worship God. He is God. He is God. And he's showing that good is to be done on the Sabbath. That good can be done. That is that. So let us, friends, let us not get so focused on keeping the letter of the law that we miss the heart of the law. Because we can keep the letter of the law so well that we miss what the law is for. We won't, the law is given to teach us how to live, to show us that we need a savior, to show us that we can't do it. And so to show us that we need Jesus and that Jesus is the way we keep the law. So those of us that are aspiring to holiness, that are trying to be faithful, that are trying to grow great daily in grace, some ways the easiest way to be faithful is to have a good to-do list. I know I do. I love me a to-do list. I got my iPad over here with my to-do list already checked off a lot from today, and I got stuff I'm going to check off for tomorrow. I mean, I love a to-do list. But let us be careful not to be so focused on keeping the letter of the law or being religious that we forget to be faithful. Let's not be so religious that we forget to be faithful. I want us to be both. I want us to be religious. Religious is good. I'm a preacher. I like religion. I like routines. I like rituals. But let us not, the Pharisees were religious, very religious, but they weren't very faithful. I think that's our danger, friends. Being religious is easy. Being faithful is hard. Being faithful is hard. Being faithful sometimes means healing on the Sabbath and getting fussed at. Being faithful sometimes means doing these things that are going to make people look at you sideways. Being faithful means following Jesus. So let's be faithful. It's good to be religious. It's better to be faithful. Let's make that our goal. Let's make that our purpose. Hey, thanks for being with us today. Tomorrow we're going to pick up with Luke 6, verse 12. Have a great day.